wallahi tallahi ka tambaye ta ga ta a zaune taimakon ta ne ni taimaka mata ne inna lillahi ya kashe ni wallahi zuciya ta ka daka da girman Allah ku ya guri ina jama'ar gidan nan ne kuna ina na take shari inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un kawai sun zo sun rube da duta
ne aje a ciki sai lalata ke
mene muku za ku zo ku yi min wannan dukun na jahilci ke dalla ki fito ai ba gidan ubanki bane wallahi ba zan ƙara taimakon ki ba ki fito ki bi yan uwan daga taimako sai zo su yi wannan dukan mene muku
me ya faru ne ku biyo shi a gida kuna dukan shi
kawai mu ce kawo yake lalata da ita
to ita ta jiya
return and erase the entire Yakuza gang from the earth. Hearing this, the Yakuza boss snaps in anger and kills the old samurai without mercy. Following this, it is revealed that Yakuza's growing cruelty forces not just the samurai but countless innocent civilians to leave Japan, and OG is among them. The scene shifts to a bustling port where a sleek car pulls up and Satya Dada steps out with his right-hand man. They're transporting a massive stash of gold, which Satya orders to be loaded onto a ship. The ship is about to depart for the Indian city Bombay, where Satya plans to buy a port with this gold. His dream is to create jobs and provide a better life for poor families. Among the passengers, a young man named Gumpira sits quietly with his face covered. His eyes burn with determination as he looks at an old photograph of himself standing beside the samurai leader. Suddenly, a group of pirates storms the ship and tries to steal Satya Dada's gold. Satya rushes forward with a shotgun, but the pirates kill an innocent passenger to warn him, forcing Satya to drop his gun. One of them grabs the Gumpira, and Satya offers all the gold in exchange for all the passengers' lives. In that moment, Gumpira strikes with blinding speed and kills the pirate in a single attack. Using samurai-style precision and unmatched skill, he takes down the pirates one by one, leaving Satya and the passengers frozen in a maze. After the fight, Satya thanks Gumpira for his help and shares that he spent 10 years collecting the gold to build a port in Bombay, and without him, his dream would have been lost today. Satya offers some gold as a reward, but he refuses. Impressed by Satya's selflessness and kindness, he decides to stand by his side and vows that no one will be able to touch Satya as long as he's alive. 23 years pass and we see a cargo ship approaching Bombay's government port. When the supervisors spot police patrol nearby, they quickly alert their boss, Jimmy, who runs a drug cartel with his powerful brother Omi. Jimmy immediately orders the crew to divert the container to Satya Dada's port. At Satya's port, Kuldeep learns about the unauthorized unloading and immediately stops Jimmy's crew from taking the container. Just then, Jimmy arrives and demands that they let it through, but Kuldeep refuses and insists on checking it first. As he steps inside, Jimmy pulls out a gun and shoots him dead. The gunshot alerts Kuldeep's men and the police. With the situation spiraling out of control, Jimmy has no choice but to flee the port, leaving the container behind. Kuldeep's death wasn't just a common incident, but it sent waves of fear through all of Bombay, from top officials to politicians and ministers, because Kuldeep was Satya Dada's son, and the person most shaken by the news is Mirazkar, a powerful politician and Jimmy's father. He rushes to confront Jimmy and scolds him, but Jimmy shows neither guilt nor fear. Meanwhile, Mirajkar's soul trembles at the storm this single mistake is about to unleash. It's Kuldeep's funeral and countless prominent figures gather at Satya Dada's home. His daughter-in-law Geeta orders the police to find the killer as quickly as possible. Just then, her son Arjun arrives, but he doesn't step inside. Ever since his father's death, he has distanced himself from the family and dislikes everyone from that day, especially Gumpira. After a while, Mirajkar arrives at the funeral with Jimmy and pretends in front of Satya Dada that he knows nothing about the killer. Everyone knows the truth but stays silent. Satya Dada then hands a stick to Kuldeep's wife and she immediately begins beating Jimmy. He burns with anger and tries to react, but Mirajkar restrains him, urging him to endure the humiliation, and no one there has the courage to interfere. After this, Jimmy storms out in anger, and Satya Dada warns Mirajkar that this was only a warning till Jimmy is a suspect, but if it will confirmed, they should be ready to face Gumpira's vengeance. Later, Jimmy confronts his father, furious that he allowed him to be beaten and humiliated in front of everyone. Mirajkar then recalls an incident from 15 years ago when he tried to mess with Satya Datta and attempted to seize his port. Mirajkar's men had completely surrounded the area, capturing Satya and young Arjun with the support of nearly 100 henchmen. They humiliated Satya and Arjun, taunting them that no one could save them until one man stormed in like a thunder with his samurai sword. With unmatched skill and fearless determination, he unleashes on a swarm of Mirajkar's henchmen alone, chopping everyone and delivering sharp lethal strikes with precision. His entrance is a scene of cinematic with unshakable swagger that leaves the audience in a maze. Seeing him, everyone freezes in fear and Satya seems to come alive as Gumbhira wipes out Mirajkar's henchmen effortlessly. Even when surrounded by many goons, Gumbhira fights alone and delivers lethal blows with his remarkable sword. Satya confidently drops the port papers on the table, challenging anyone has the guts to take them. Mirajkar orders his men and everyone open a barrage of firing, but Gumbhira effortlessly dodges every shot with precise swordsmanship. Drawing his nunchak, he expertly dispatches the goons, brutally injuring many with deadly attacks, and stands at the middle of the table as the goons fire it all. Yet he continues finishing the goons, cutting down some and chopping through others with deadly blows. When the battle ends, every henchman lies defeated, and the only one left alive is Mirajkar. Witnessing Gumbhira's brutality and loyalty to Satya, he is utterly terrified and begs for his life. However, he spares him but warns that never to come near Satya again. Having saved Satya and Arjun, Gumbhira slowly walks to the center of the port. He removes his blood-soaked shirt from the battle and hangs it like a flag at the tallest point. Back in the present, Mirajkar shows Jimmy the shirt that is still hanging as a warning and trembling with fear, urges Jimmy to pray that Gumbhira never returns if he wants to save his life. On the other hand, one of Arjun's friends asks where Gumbhira is now. Arjun reveals that OG left Satya and this house 15 years ago and never returned because he was the one who had killed Arjun's father. Now Kuldeep's death could be the trigger to bring him back, and Arjun plans to take his 15-year-old revenge by killing him. Later that day, Satya travels to Nashik with Kuldeep's ashes to perform his son's
ita ta kawo kanta yar iska ce shi ma dan iska ne.
Yau gaskiya ne. Dan me kuka tilasta ta kuka barta ta fito karuwanci?
Ke kinga, ki tattara kayanki mu fita daga wannan gidan.
Ba inda zaki. Saboda gidan ubanki ne wallahi sai ki fito. Wallahi sai kin fito. Ki fito ki bi su yan uwanki ne. Kalla abin da suka yi min. Wallahi sai ki fito.
Kaga, ka janyo yarinyar nan ko a ƙasa ne mu kai ta gida. Kai kuma zaka ansa kira a kotu.
Saboda dan iska ne ni ko ba uwa ce ta haife ni ba. Ƙarya kake wallahi. Ni ne zan yi ƙarar ku a kotu.
Final rights. On the other hand, police officials update the chief minister of the murder and he orders to find Kuldeep's killer as quickly as possible. He knows that ever since Gumbhira left, Satya Datta's power has weakened and his enemies make another attempt to seize the port. However, one of the officers Taude works for Jimmy and he orders him to go to the port immediately and retrieve the container. Taude gathers a massive force and storms Satya's port, throwing the entire place into chaos. His officers beat innocent workers and arrest anyone who dares to resist. In the midst of the violence, Satya's loyal assistant Dina arrives and confronts Taude for conducting an illegal raid. Seeing the situation getting worse, a woman sends her daughter to alert Gita. Meanwhile, Taude handcuffs Dina to a jeep and detains the remaining workers. He and his men tear through the port searching for the container, but despite an intense search, they find nothing. Just as Taude's hopes sink, he finally spots a container, but it turns only to be completely empty, pushing his frustration to the edge. Meanwhile, the little girl reaches Satya's house and alerts Gita. To get the container, Taude grabs a young woman and harasses her, something that Dina can't tolerate and gets furious. He breaks free from the jeep and is about to attack Taude when Gita crashes through the gates in her jeep, making a bold cinematic entrance and fixes Taude with a fierce stare. Like a brave warrior, she points her gun at him and orders him to leave immediately. Taude assumes she wouldn't dare shoot a police officer, but Gita warns him coldly that she can kill him right here and then walk out on bail using her power. Seeing the fury and fearlessness in her eyes, Taude gets scared and decides to leave the port with his entire force. After this, Jimmy captures a few of Satya's workers and asks them about Satya's whereabouts. Loyal to their boss, one worker refuses to say a word and spite on his face. Enraged, Jimmy viciously slashes on him with a cleaver and gives him a brutal death. Terrified by his brutality, the remaining workers finally reveal that Satya is in Nashik for his son's last rites. Having been spying for Satya for 10 years, a man in Jimmy's gang overhears this and immediately informs Satya's loyal Dharani that Jimmy has headed to Nashik. Meanwhile, Jimmy calls his henchman Pathan in Nashik and orders him to find Satya's location as quickly as possible. Here, Geeta immediately sends Dina to Nashik to protect Satya and suggests using their political connections for help, but Dara instantly shuts it down, saying no one has the power or courage to stand against Mirajkar except one man who is Gumbhira. Although Gumbhira is their last hope, he hasn't been seen in 15 years. Dara then recalls an incident that happened in Nashik a few years earlier, where a single man wiped out an entire notorious gang to rescue 40 girls from human trafficking. The sheer brutality of the massacre went viral across multiple cities, prompting Dara to visit the Nashik police station to learn more. There, Dara learns that the man who saved the girls was none other than Gumbhira, but after that incident, the police found no trace of him except for his wife's name, Kamini. Hearing the name, Geeta remembers some letters often found in Satya's room. These letters are sent by Kaman in which she describes her life with Gumbhira after marriage. He and Kaamini now live a normal life in Nashik, where Gumbhira runs a small martial arts class, and Kaamini works as a doctor in a hospital. She writes that Gumbhira still sees Satya as a father figure and misses him every single day. Gumbhira and Kaamini also have a lovely daughter, Tara. Gumbhira has left his old life behind and is now living with his family. The letters reveal that Satya always knew where Gumbhira is, but he never replies because he didn't want to drag him back into that bloodshed world. Dara then approaches a senior officer and using Satya's power, he asks him to stop Jimmy, but the officer warns him that Jimmy isn't the real threat, but his elder brother Omi. The officer adds that he hopes Omi never returns to Bombay, because this time Gumbhira isn't with Satya to protect him. We are then introduced to Omi, who lives in Istanbul and works closely with several major drug cartels. Alongside the underworld gangster David, he rules the entire Middle East. David always trusts Omi with high-risk missions because of his unmatched courage and ruthless efficiency. But after learning that the container has gone missing, David's men warn Omi that he has disappointed the boss and will be killed if he fails to recover it. However, the container holds immense value for David, but Omi remains unfazed, confidently declaring that he will find the container even if it means returning to Bombay himself. Meanwhile, Satya arrives at Kaamini's hospital hoping to meet Gumbhira, and fortunately finds Kaamini and her daughter there. Kaamini recognizes Satya at first glance and is overjoyed to see him. As Satya starts playing with Tara, Kaamini calls Gumbhira to inform him of Satya's unexpected visit and urges him to hurry to the hospital. What everyone feared finally happens. Omi arrives in India, and the moment Mirajkar hears the news, panic hits him and he takes off for the port. Meanwhile, Jimmy and Pathan storm the hospital with their men. Searching for Satya, they open a burst of shootout that unleashes massive chaos inside. Satya tells Kaamini to hide and steps out and fights off a few goons. He grabs a gun and fights back with Jimmy's men. Meanwhile, Jimmy sneaks around to find him.
Yes! ‘Yan Rufa'i Data Link.
Da ‘yan Rufa'i Data Link kaɗai nake gudanar da al'amuran rayuwana na intanet.
Domin samun sauƙin more data cikin sauƙi, maza ku garzaya ku yi amfani da ‘yan Rufa'i Data Link ɗaya tamkar da 1000.
Sa, wow! ‘Yan Rufa'i Data Link. ‘Yan Rufa'i Data Link kuma?
Yes, ‘yan Rufa'i Data Link.
Sa, ƙwarai kuwa. ‘Yan Rufa'i Data Link shine na ɗaya.
To, daman da ‘yan Rufa'i Data Link kuke amfani shi ne kuka bani a baya?
Ai a wannan zamanin duk wanda baya amfani da ‘yan Rufa'i Data Link an bar sa a baya.
Shi yasa a kowane lokaci zaki rika gani na cikin farin ciki.
Tare da walwala.
Wani abun ban sha'awa da datar ‘yan Rufa'i Data Link da zarar ka buɗe application ɗinmu nan take kana da kyautar MB 200.
‘Yan Rufa'i Data Link.
Shi ne na ɗaya.
Mu ne gangariya data lamba 1.
Quietly, but Satya ambushes him from behind and holds him at knife point. However, Jimmy stabs Satya, but he still manages to escape towards his jeep. Just as Jimmy is about to fire, Kaamini hurls a fire extinguisher at him, making him miss the shot and giving Satya the chance to escape. Pathan urges Jimmy to hurry, but before leaving, Jimmy turns to Kaamini and shoots multiple times to her death. Meanwhile, Geeta is informed about the hospital attack when she suddenly hears chaos erupting outside and soon realizes that Omi has stormed at the port with his men and is beating the workers. Geeta once again pulls out a gun with fierce courage, ordering Omi's men to release the workers, but Omi calmly steps out of his car and shows that his men have already captured Dara. Forced to save him, Gita surrenders without any resist, and Omi then demands she reveal the container's location. At the hospital, Gumbhira arrives and his world shatters the moment he sees his wife lying dead, but he sees Tara is still alive and fine. At the port, Omi turns to the little girl and orders her to go find someone who can save them now, just like she brought Gita earlier. As the girl begins to run, Omi shoots her without mercy and Gita gets furious but can do nothing and watches helplessly. On the other hand, Jimmy and his men chase Satya's jeep. Jimmy fires at the driver, causing the vehicle to crash in the middle of a field, but when Jimmy's men check the jeep, they find Satya and his driver have already escaped and hide somewhere into the fields. To force Satya out, Jimmy sets the entire field ablaze, and on the other hand, Omi torches the port's office, and is moments away from burning the workers alive when Mirajkar suddenly arrives and stops Omi's men. Omi tells his father that the port is now under his control, but Mirajkar turns to Gita. In a cold warning, he urges her to speak up, threatening her that Omi is far more ruthless than she can imagine. Out in the fields, Jimmy's men finally track down Satya and launch a brutal attack. They capture him and decide to drag him before Omi. Hearing Mirajkar's threat, Gita confidently reminds him that whenever Satya's family has been in danger, a savior has always come to save them, and she is sure that this time he will also come. Mirajkar immediately realizes she's talking about Gumbhira, and right then, one of Jimmy's men is struck from behind and his neck severed in a single blow. Everyone freezes in shock until they realize the attacker is none other than Gumbhira. Just as Gita had predicted, he has returned to save Satya. In an instant, he unleashes on Jimmy's men, tearing through them with his sharp blades, slicing them down with the precision of a seasoned butcher. Jimmy stands stunned, while a surge of power and hope floods back into Satya. As Gumbhira ruthlessly takes down Jimmy's men one by one, Satya calls at the port and warns Omi that Gumbhira has returned, leaving Mirajkar trembling with fear, and Gita mocks at his feared face. Seeing OG back in his old unstoppable form, Pathan trembles with fear and recalls the day Gumbhira single-handedly wiped out 100 of Mirajkar's fighters. He urges Jimmy to flee, but Jimmy dares to confront him. With a single lethal strike, Gumbhira severs Jimmy's head effortlessly. Standing with unmatched swag, his presence declares that he is still unstoppable and no one can touch Satya until he's alive. The next morning, Pathan arrives at Mirajkar's mansion carrying Jimmy's lifeless body and his severed head. The sight shatters Mirajkar with grief, while Omi's eyes ignite with a violent fire of revenge. Meanwhile, Gumbhira grieves for his wife and the news of his return spreads across Bombay like wildfire, sending a clear message that this is the end of Satya's enemies. Making a spine-chilling grand entrance, Gumbhira storms into Taudi's police station with Donna and his men. The moment he steps inside, every officer stiffens because they all know who just walked in. He sits down in front of Taudi with cold confidence and demands the location of Gita and the others. Foolishly underestimating him, Taudi tries to intimidate him and even mocks him many times while the other officers watch in panic, knowing Taudi is making the biggest mistake of his life by taking Gumbhira lightly. Gumbhira orders the other officers to restrain Taudi, and with a single command, they all turn against him. Taudi left in disbelief and panic. On his orders, other officers hurriedly begin to find a cleaver and soon manage to hand him. Gumbhira lifts it and is ready to slice off Taudi's hand unless he reveals Gita's location. Crushing Taudi's arrogance, Gumbhira makes him realize who he was messing with and then walks out to save his people. Soon after, Gumbhira reaches the abandoned building where Omi has been capturing Gita and the other workers since last night. Without wasting a second, Gumbhira and his men storm the place, brutally tearing through Omi's henchmen. After a violent shootout and a wave of ruthless takedowns, Gita and the others are finally rescued. Gumbhira then turns to Omi's right-hand man and slashes him down with merciless strikes. The mother of the little girl Omi had shot hands Gumbhira a gun. He tells the man to run, and the moment he takes off, Gumbhira shoots him dead and avenges the child's death. It's Jimmy's funeral, and fearless as ever, Gumbhira walks straight into Jimmy's funeral to confront Omi. Omi is ready to charge at him, but Mirajkar holds him back. Before leaving, Gumbhira warns Omi to stay away from Satya, to forget about the container unless he wants to die even worse than Jimmy. As Gumbhira strides away with unshakable swagger, Arjun watches from the crowd, his eyes burning with the desire for revenge, and he sees his chance to team up with Omi. In the evening, the chief governor meets Satya and urges him to reconcile with Mirajkar by returning the container. Satya bluntly refuses, realizing the governor is now aligned with Omi. Infuriated, the governor threatens to strip Satya of control over the port until Gumbhira shows up. The moment the governor sees him, a flashback hits him when Gumbhira slaughtered his men without mercy. Terrified, he freezes as Gumpira calmly warns him not to interfere in this matter. With his authority shattered, the governor quietly backs off and leaves the house. Revealing their true face, Gumpira and Satya's men dig up their legendary weapons and guns that they hid 15 years ago. Armed to the teeth, they erupt into a brutal bloodbath, hunting down and wiping out Omi's men one by one. During which they learn that Omi was planning to detonate RDX at 12 different locations across Bombay after 2 days under the underworld Don David's instructions. Meanwhile, Omi tells Towdy that he has now uncovered the secret location where Satya hid the RDX. Due to the bloodshed among Omi's men, David's right-hand man realizes that Omi has been weakened by Gumpira's return and is also unable to find the RDX, prompting David to order Omi's execution. David's men, along with his henchmen, reach Omi to kill him, but Towdy intervenes, urging them to cooperate, but they refuse to compromise, which erupts Omi in rage, and he starts slaughtering David's men one by one. Like Gumpira, he is also exceptionally skilled and fearless. As he turns on the right-hand man, Omi receives a call from an enraged David, who scolds him for failing the mission. With unwavering confidence, Omi assures David that he will locate the RDX and the bomb blasts will proceed exactly as planned, persuading him to grant one more chance. The next morning, Omi and his men reach the secret location and find the RDX where Dara and Dana are stationed. Without hesitation, Omi kills them both and retrieves the RDX. On the other hand, Arjun meets his mother and reveals that he has avenged his father's death. He explains how he befriended Tara and handed her over to Omi's men. When Gumpira learns about it, he immediately pursues them in his car to rescue Tara, and following Arjun's plan, a truck crashes into his car, leaving him severely injured. Arjun then confronts him, ready to shoot, but Omi's men betray him and take Tara with them. Arjun begins to save the girl, but the goons turn on him, and despite his injuries, Gumpira shoots to save Arjun and he begins to chases the goons, but they manage to get away. Geeta then takes the wounded and reaches OG home to begin his recovery, revealing the shocking truth that the killer of Arjun's father was Arjun himself, not Gumpira. She recalls when Arjun's father had been secretly smuggling drugs to the port with Mirajkar. When Satya discovered this, he cut him out of the business and locked him in a room for several days. One day, Arjun's father asked him for a gun through the window, and while trying to hand it to him, Arjun accidentally fired it and killed his father, but Gumpira had taken the blame all these years to spare Arjun from the guilt. Arjun is heartbroken upon learning the truth and feels deep guilt toward Gumpira. When they rush to his room, they find Gumpira has already left to save his daughter. Determined, Arjun takes a gun and vows to help Gumpira to rescue Tara. Meanwhile, Omi is busy preparing for the bomb blast, and by evening, everything is set exactly according to plan. As he reports the good news to David, an old strange man arrives to meet him. David initially refuses, but when the man boldly attacks David's men right outside, David is forced to meet him. Extending a hand of friendship, the man explains that he came to give some information about Gumpira. He explains that no one knows the reality of Gumpira except him, and David is utterly unaware what he can do. He adds that it is impossible to kill him, to which David reveals that Omi's men killed him today. David doesn't take the man seriously and leaves, but he still waits there, confident that David will surely return to talk to him. On the other hand, Towdy captures Tara, taunts her that Gumpira is dead, and no one can save her now, but she quietly points toward the TV where it is shown that Gumpira is storming into Omi's base with unstoppable fury. Driving his bulletproof Cybertruck, he smashes through the entrance and finishes off many goons effortlessly. Everyone freezes in confusion when Gumpira suddenly vanishes from sight. All the goons raise their guns and Gumpira's sword suddenly whistles through the air, slicing across their neck and cutting down every last one of them. Some goons panic and try to escape in the elevator, but Gumpira still manages to stab one. Wiping off all the goons, he steps out of the lift and storms into the building, showcasing his samurai mastery. He expertly dodges all bullets and brutally slaughters every last gunman in his path. David's man is shaken by the sheer brutality and dispatch a squad to deal with Gumpira, only to be greeted by a massive grenade explosion. Bursting in with his fav gun, Gumpira unleashes a wild storm of bullets. Switching from the gun to several other weapons, he wipes out the entire squad in the blink of an eye. When the smoke clears, he fires wildly into the air and dares Omi to face him. Omi talks to him through the intercom, warning that Tara is in their custody and demanding his surrender. Just then, David's men step in from behind and order Gumpira to drop his weapon. Gumpira pretends to surrender, and Omi offers him a glass of wine, and he freezes when he sees his wife's wedding necklace in it. When Omi and David's men insult his wife, Gumpira's rage explodes, and he unleashes a single brutal strike and kills David's men instantly. After finishing Omi's guards, Gumbhira turns on Omi and effortlessly overpowers him, hammering several brutal punches into his face before ending with a devastating slam. To survive Gumbhira's wrath, Omi uses Tara as a threat and orders Tauti to kill her. When Gumbhira grabs the phone, he hears a gunshot on the other end, leaving him shattered and devastated. Afterwards, several of Omi's men surround Gumbhira at gunpoint. Omi moves in to finish him, but stops as he wants him alive long enough to witness the bomb blasts. Omi begins counting down, confident of his victory, but nothing happens and the bombs fail to detonate, leaving Omi and David stunned. A voice comes through the phone and it's Arjun. It reveals that the gunshot Gumbhira heard wasn't Tara's death, but Arjun shooting Tauti and rescuing her. Then suddenly, some packets are tossed into the hall, each containing the severed heads of the men assigned to carry out the bomb blasts, and Omi is left completely stunned. Returning to his old fearless style, Gumbhira reveals how his samurai students had already reached every blast site, silently taking out the bombers one by one and failing Omi's entire plan. Just then, Gumbhira's elite samurai students step into the hall and turn their sharp blades on Omi's men. In a few seconds, the room is cleared with Omi's men, and all the samurai stand firmly as Gumbhira's shield. One of the samurai hands Gumbhira his remarkable sword, and Omi begins firing, but Gumbhira weaves through the bullets and delivers a single strike that cut the scene, and we see Omi tied up inside a room with the RDX, and a heartbeat later, the entire building erupts in a massive explosion. After Omi's death and the collapse of the plan, David realizes too late that he should have taken the old man warning seriously, and returns to him, exactly as the man expected. When David asks about Gumbhira, the man finally reveals the Gumbhira is the last samurai who survived the Yakuza's massacre, and for years he has been eliminating their members one by one. In just a few years, he erased the entire syndicate from the shadows, and the old man exposes himself as Yakamura, the leader and last member of Yakuza. He reveals Gumbhira real name is Orochi Gensen, a name feared across Japan and beyond. Now he commanding an army of samurai he personally trained and confidently declares that with his warriors by his side, no one can even touch him. In the end, we realize that Gumbhira is the very man the old leader talked about at the beginning of the movie, and everyone calls him the Great OG. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Additionally, if you love Indian movies, you're in the right place as we bring the best explanations for global audiences. Before you go, drop your favorite Indian movie in the comments for us to explain next, and also check out more of our content.
Kalli yadda kuka fitar min da jini, kalli irin dukan da kuka yi min kamar jaki, wallahi sai na bi kaduna. Dan me kuka bata a wulakance tana ta yawo a titi ba ci ba sha ba sutura ba wajen kwana. Dan na ɗauke ta na taimake ta kuma sai ku zo ku yi min wannan illar. Saboda ni abin arziki bai karɓe ni ba.
Ita kaɗai ce a cikin gidan. Hajiya ta shiga makotan nan gaisuwar rasuwa. Kuma ba nan nisa ba nan ta kusa dawo.
Malam, dan Allah kai haƙuri ka bari in shiga cikin gidan nan in yi magana da Sajida.
Gaskiya ba zan iya ba, saboda ina gudun kada na rasa tona a cikin wannan gidan.
Kar ka damu. Zan buɗe maka wata hanyar cin abincin. Za ka ci duk abin da ranka yake so. Zan baka aiki a kamfanin mahaifina.
Kamfanin Alhaji Yaro?
Ƙwarai da gaske. Kuma ba za ka sake siyan abinci da kuɗinka ba. Idan kuma kai sa'a, a dalilin wannan alfarmar da kai mun Sajida ta dawo gare ni, to za ka yi mamakin irin kyautar da zan yi maka.
To ai bana da wata zaɓi, ka shiga kawai Alhaji Biliya, Allah ya bai da sa'a.
Na gode, kuma ina mai tabbatar maka da ba za ka yi nadama ba.
Iyaye ashe suna da haƙƙi kan 'ya'yansu 'ya'ya ashe suna da shi ga iyaye ma mazaje ashe suna